This fly is called an August dun, and we use the word dun in a couple of different ways in our fly tying vocabulary. It can be a color, and I will actually be using a light dun color feather for the tail on this fly. We also use the word dun to describe the stage of a mayfly or an Ephemeroptera as it emerges out of the water before it flies off. So it's kind of the in-between stage between the emerger and the adult. It is a fly from Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories, as illustrated by her father, Charles Orvis. And I'm tying it off of the illustration. I can't find this particular pattern anywhere that I have looked. I am tying it on a number 14 curved shank dry fly hook that's 3x long, and because it is the mayfly after it emerges before it flies off, I think it's supposed to be tied as a dry fly. For the tail, I am using this light dun. It's just a few fibers that I'm tying in back here at the back of the shank, and what's the length? Maybe a half a shank. Oh, and I am using this very long shank, so get those butt ends tied in. It doesn't really matter, they're going to get covered up. For the rib, I'm using gold oval tinsel, and the reason I'm using oval tinsel instead of wire is because I want the fly to stay light, to be fished as a dry fly. For the body, I'm using 4 strands of 140 denier brown thread floss, and the reason I'm using 4 strands again is so that it takes less to build up the body. So tie those in, wrap it back to the tail, take my thread back up to the front of the hook where I'm going to end the body, and then I'm going to wrap those. And having a number of thread wraps underneath is fine because I don't want a body that's too thin. According to the illustration, it's not a real thin body, but this is really still a pretty thin body. And I like the look on this 3X hook to imitate that mayfly. And I'm using brown as opposed to red. If I had something that was a little closer to a reddish brown, it might be a little bit more like the illustration. But again, I'm tying off the illustration, so I have to kind of make some guesses, and then I let go of one of my strands. Oh my. Okay, pick it back up. Get it wrapped back in and tied in. And I can kind of build it up here behind where the hackle, wing and hackle are going to get tied in, so that there's a little bit of a, not really a bump in there, although the illustration almost looks like it might have something. And this very fine wire hook, it's tight in the clamp or in the vise, but it's very flexible, so I have to work with that flexibility. All right, so clip off the extra from the body, and then I'm going to take and wrap Because I'm spiraling it, I'm not too worried about a counter wrap on this. And that floss is laid down fairly flat, so just spiral wrap the gold rib up over the body and bring it up here where I'll be tying in the wing, and then catch that off. Couple under wraps to secure it. For the wing, I'm using some feathers off of this hen hackle because I'm really trying to imitate the look of the wings in the illustration. And I've taken some feathers down here from I guess this would be the bottom end of the hackle where the feathers are thinner. So for the wing, I have 2 of those hen hackle feathers, about hook shank in length. And then I'm putting the quills, or the stems, one on each side of my hook shank. I'm leaving plenty of room in front of them for my dry fly hackle. I'm going to wrap underneath of them also, just to kind of help them stand up. Just a couple wraps. I will be putting 1 hackle wrap behind them as well. And then I can lift up on those stems, tie them in underneath. And I'm going to cut them out instead of snap them out, because I found I run into the danger of the wings falling out if I snap them out. And where's the other one? Caught in between. See if I can pick it out of there. Yeah, I had quite a bit of a decision to make about what to use for the wings on this. Maybe a little bit smaller would be better, but I like the look of this. Is very much like the look of the wings in the illustration. For the hackle, I have this honey hen hackle. It's actually, I think it's a hen, but it's dry fly style. And I've trimmed the butt end of that to get the little barbs that make it easier to tie in. And then I'll just wrap that. I'm going to wrap in front. A couple wraps first in front. And then I'm going to take that and lift up those wings and go behind them nice and tight. That'll help to keep the wings upright. And then I'll do a couple more wraps in front. Probably should use the hackle pliers. That's a fairly long feather though, so. And then I'll go ahead and catch that in. 3 catch-in wraps, that's kind of been my standard. Pull back on everything. And then wrap up over that stem. And start to build the head. Then I think I can just put some tension on my thread, snap that out. I got one errant fiber here. I think that looks fairly close to what the illustration looks like. Go ahead and put a whip finish on that. I'm going to cement it. So 3-4 wraps is plenty, I'm guessing. Yeah, that fine wire hook just bends all over the place. I think I'm going to clean that up a little bit just for the looks. I'm going to put a little bit of diluted goop for the head cement. I'll put a recipe for the goop in the description. And then this is a little tip I've picked up from Ed's story, who doesn't have anything to do with this fly, but I have a little piece of dry fly hackle, and I'm going to push that down through the eye of this fly, pull that through, and that'll make sure that that eye is clean. A August Dun, Old English pattern, as illustrated by Charles Orvis in Mary Orvis Marbury's book, Favorite Flies and Their Histories.